Alrighty, everybody. So in previous videos, we were looking at the angle relationships that are formed within, on, outside circles. Alright, in this video and the next video, we're going to deal with the relationships going on with the segments inside, outside, whatever the case may be, all related back to a circle. Okay? So the first relationship is when I have two tangents that come from the same outside point. So this outside point Q, tangent comes, it hits the circle once in point R or point S. All right, and the relationship there is that those tangent segments are congruent. These tangent segments here are congruent. All right, which means that I can set their lengths equal to each other. So like our first example here, we got 3x plus 5 equals 32. So I got 3x equals 27, x equals 9. Okay? Now, the next two relationships go hand in hand. All right, if you have two secants from the outside, so if two secants share the same endpoint outside the circle, so they come from the same endpoint outside the circle, then the products of the lengths of one secant segment and its external segments equals the product of the lengths of the other secant segment and its external segment. What? Like, what is that saying? Okay, so it's basically saying that the outside times the whole equals the outside times the whole of the other segment. So EA times EB, which is the whole secant, equals EC, which is the outside part, times ED, which is the whole. All right, so that is basically saying outside, the outside times the whole equals the outside times the whole. Okay? So that is the relationship if I'm dealing with segments outside the circle, two secants. Outside times whole equals outside times whole. All right? Now, if I'm dealing with a secant and a tangent that both come from the outside point, so if we have a tangent segment and a secant segment that come from the same endpoint outside the circle, then the product of the lengths of the secant segment and its external equals the square of the length of the tangent segment. So once again, what is this saying? So it's saying the outside part, which is PA, times the whole, which is PB, equals the square of the tangent segment. All right, but really, this is just a special case of the relationship right above. All right, it's still outside times whole equals outside times whole. It just so happens that when I'm dealing with a tangent, the outside and the whole are the same thing. Okay, so this is basically saying the outside times the whole equals the outside times the whole. But in a tangent, the outside and the whole are both PT. So PT times PT is going to be PT squared. All right, so this relationship right here, outside times whole equals outside times whole, is what we'll be doing for most of these. Okay, so let's find the missing segments here. So we've got two secants here. All right, so we need to do the outside times the whole equals the outside times the whole of the other one. Okay? So it's important to note what our whole segments are. Alright, so like PR, this whole secant is 10. RT, this whole secant is 5 plus x. Okay, so we get outside times whole equals outside times whole. Now we just need to solve this. So we get 60 equals 25 plus 5x. So 5x equals 35. X equals 7. Alright, so the relationship here is outside times whole equals outside times whole. All right, what about in part B? Part B, we have a secant and a tangent. So in the secant, the outside part is 9, but the whole part is 16. All right, so we get outside times whole equals, in the tangent segment, the outside part is x, and the whole is also x. So this is why we get 9 times 16 equals x squared. All right, 9 times 16. Oops, sorry for the camera flip. So we get 144 equals x squared. Square root of both sides, x will equal 12. So that tangent segment is going to be 12. All right, so those are the two relationships, but there are three different cases. And they're really all saying the same thing. Outside times whole equals outside times whole. Except when we're dealing with two tangents, all right, we can just set them automatically equal to each other. All right, now, you got 3 you try now problems here for you. Each talking about that relationship. Each practicing that, so make sure you do that. The easiest mistake to make for this section is doing outside times inside equals outside times inside. Okay, and that's not what the relationship is saying. So just make sure you have this relationship highlighted, put it on a note card, whatever you need, so that you know when you're dealing with segments outside the circle, that it's outside times the whole segment equals outside times the whole segment. Alrighty, so that'll wrap up 7.4 day 1, dealing with segments outside the circle. Alright, in our next video, we will deal with segments inside the circle. Make sure you practice these you try nows. Do those practice problems. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a good one.